I am doing my internship at the Maryland General Assembly. I'm with the Office of Senator Karen Lewis Young. She is a senator for Frederick, which is just three, period, but like not four, District 3. I know Frederick is like split in half a little bit. Um, I'm a sociology major, political science minor. I have an associate's degree in general studies with a concentration in criminology. I have an interest in legal studies and political governance, and I'm graduating in May. I also did not put how I got my internship. Essentially, the I had graduated and gotten my associates in December of 2024. And because I was leaving, I wasn't able to do the General Assembly that upcoming spring because you have to have a like advisor sort of recommend you. And technically, I wouldn't be with that advisor anymore. So I wasn't able to do it then. So I was able to do it this past. So it's just an application online. It's an extremely competitive program, but they seem to increase the amount of the amount of interns they have every year. So I don't know how competitive it is anymore. I think of what else. Oh yes, so you kind of go into the program, you give your application in, and then it essentially goes to every single senator and delegate within the General Assembly. And then they'll look at your application. You can specify if you want to be in a specific caucus, like there's an LGBTQ plus caucus, there's a Black caucus, there's a Jewish caucus, there's a Catholic caucus. You can be with specific senators if you want. I was interviewed, or I was interviewed by a delegate and my current senator, but I was also asked to be with another delegate. But I had some internal personal conviction that I did not want to be with a Republican, but that's just me. So Maryland General Assembly is combined with 47 senators, 141 delegates from 47 districts. They enact laws that are necessary for state welfare. And they propose amendments to Maryland's Constitution. Probably you saw a few years ago when we added the right to an abortion in Maryland's Constitution. Oh yeah, so they meet annually. It's only a 90-day session. So this year it was January 14th to April 17th. So it's only 90 days, and during that time, we basically try to get as many bills or laws or whatever, enacted as quickly as possible. That's me. My chief of staff took that picture when I told him not to, but and then he sent it to me, so I got to see that on my phone. This was during my training. I had 2 days of training in Annapolis, and basically it was like every single intern and fellow in the big like DLS building, like room, at a time, and we had to sit there for 5 to 8 hours a day just listening to people talk about different organizations within the General Assembly, which it was interesting at some points, and then it just dragged on. I wonder if that thing's gonna go up. But my typical day, so within the office of Karen Lewis Young, it's mostly clerical work, like organizing emails and calls. I do like help with bill writing. That was sort of in the beginning. Written testimony. I should have printed it out, but I can show you guys written testimony online. The written testimony I have done, like actually written myself, is online. And then in that picture, I'm submitting bills to the state house. That's me literally giving them the bill, and then they put it online, and then the bill is now there. And I do some networking with representatives and legislative staff, more legislative staff than anybody else, but I have met a few other senators and delegates. So that's been nice. I'm trying to think. Oh, and as of recently, I have been helping with every delegate and senator within the state does a scholarship program. So I have been helping with the senatorial scholarship for Karen, for Senator Young. So that's just sort of like organizing that. And then they asked me if I would, what's the word I'm looking for? They asked me if I would review applications this summer. I said yes, but I'm thinking about changing my mind. My successes. I created a better organizational system and I responded to 500 emails because there was emails in there from 2023. And I responded to all of them, and I made nice replies so that we can instant reply the kind of crazy mass emails we get. Just over, I want to say this was about a week ago, we got 800 emails in one day. And I was asked to help on that Monday to answer emails because we had 800 emails. So that was fun. Oh yes, create written testimony for 3+ bills. The written testimony I have done is Maryland School of the Deaf, HOA bill, and trap neuter release. And then I provided bill recommendations based on my personal perspective, which also uses the sociological imagination. And for example, with the Maryland School of the Deaf, when it came to this bill recommendation, it was just kind of within the written testimony that I wanted to ensure that we made a point to say that the changes would ensure that there was a deaf majority within the school board, which shows that there's a better representation of the people actually within that community. Organizational constraints. It is government, so we don't have like too much, but currently what we're dealing with in Maryland is federal funding. We're not getting it. So we we stopped, there's certain things that, sort of like the 287G thing where Trump essentially said, well, if you do it, I'm not gonna give you any funding. So they weren't gonna do it, but then he wasn't giving funding anyway, so then they did it. So that's where we're at with that. Also, I don't know if anybody's heard like the crazy budget constraints that Maryland is having and the deficit. That's because we got a bunch of money during COVID. I just learned about this a few months ago, but we got a bunch of money from COVID, and all of that money went to really great programs that we use. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of developmental disability administration. And essentially what they do is they allow you to have in-house nurses and caregivers that help with parents that may have like an adult child with autism. But because we don't have that COVID money anymore, programs like that are going to lose funding, which means we're going to lose caregivers or qualified caregivers, which makes it harder for those people that have those adult children with disabilities. Oh, federal executive interpretations. One thing in specific was the change. The Trump administration changed the way that they interpreted EMTALA. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but essentially says that if you're having a medical emergency, your insurance does not matter. But also within EMTALA under the Biden administration, what they added is that if you're having a medical emergency, they can't say no to you having an abortion. Because we're under the Trump administration, that interpretation changed, and we I can't remember his name. I believe his name is Senator Lamb. He created a bill just for Maryland that would allow that interpretation under Biden to be Maryland law, essentially. So we wouldn't have to worry about an executive changing the interpretation of a law. Next is bipartisan agreement. As we all know, right now there's a big separation between Republican and Democrat. And although we don't see it too much with Maryland, we have seen it a little bit more than usual with the current administration and the separation between Republicans and Democrats within the General Assembly. Yeah, that's me. That's Wes Moore. I will say that man has amazing skin in person. And like he smiles really big. It was crazy. I was so close to him. But yeah, I was like right 1% over from her. And then again, this is that big room that they had us in for training, which is fine. My personal growth, I sort of put all my stuff together in one. Oh yeah, so first picture right there is signing die. So that's the last day of the General Assembly. And essentially everyone, there's like balloons and confetti and everyone gets drunk afterwards. And then that is the State House. So during my time working for MGA, for specifically Senator Lewis Young's office, everybody's experience is different. I improved my professional writing. I was really nervous about this because I have been an administrative assistant before for my previous college. So I was used to writing pretty professionally, but I didn't need to do too much because I was in facilities. Um, so I was able to definitely improve my professional writing, especially for things that would be given to like chairs of committees and to the Senate floor itself. So that was nerve-wracking, but I worked on it. Um, one thing I did was made clear my personal opinions and convictions without regret. That's something I had to work on because I was kind of nervous to share my opinion within the office. But then once I heard how they were able to speak, I didn't care anymore. So I was able to say what I want to say when I want to say it. I understood the full value of the sociological imagination and political environment. One thing I was able to do, which I believe a few of us talked about also, was bringing our sociology sort of understanding into our office. And that was a big thing for me because I think there are literal departments that do what we do, and they make it's like a fiscal note, but instead of it being about money, it's about race and discrimination impact. Um, so instead of my chief of staff or my deputy chief of staff just relying on that, I was able to tell them, well, this bill is going to do this, and I can tell you that now before the note was even on the bill. Um, oh yeah, I learned the type of work environment I strive for. I don't like toxic work environments, and I prefer when people speak to each other like they're adults. And I'm able to now understand that if I were ever in that same position again, I would remove myself. Now I'm not, because as soon as I'm practical, I gotta do what I gotta do. But later on I will not. And I kept my empathy for others firm when conducting my work. And I again back up here to my personal opinions. If I was in a position where I felt as though my supervisor was not using empathy, I would sort of make it clear that I felt as though he was not using empathy, which happened within the last few weeks. So at least I'm working on it. This was sort of like our big four legislative focuses. So 287G, Senator Lucian was a co-sponsor. TNR, we're the main sponsor in the Senate. But it did not move in the Senate, but it moved in the House. So we have a cross file, so it might go through, but it moved in the House, not the Senate. We have an HOA bill that's essentially increased transparency for others. I can show you, I actually did the testimony writing for that one, so I can show you guys that after. And then Mason's Law, I'm not sure if anybody heard about that, but we're essentially trying to make it a Maryland state law that you have to put grates on all the sewage drains. There was an incident where, this is the sewage drain, there was a really bad flood and a teenage boy ended up getting swept into it and he died. So we have a bill saying that you have to put grates on all sewage drains no matter what, which did get some pushback, surprisingly. Yeah, very surprisingly, we did get some pushback. Yeah, it was very interesting. We got a lot of pushback because counties would have to pay for it themselves, and they didn't want that. But you have to pay for it yourself. Oh, my research. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out what is the switch between human empathy within the work that you do within politics or government and just the duty. So I'm trying to understand why people might switch the relationship between doing things. I know you're talking about this from an empathetic standpoint, from just a straight, okay, this is what I do because I have to, and this is my duty. I think we talked about this before. Something I noticed within my organization is just a lack of feelings and emotions with certain things. I personally I would say I have a mix of an emotional and a logical standpoint from it, but I do often like to see, the empathetic side of things. But this reasoning isn't the same for others who have a feeling of duty and obligation rather than feeling like, this thing is sad and I want to help. So I want to explain the relational change because it's critical to fully understanding the relationship between like your representative and the people within their office that are really responding to you, and then the people they govern. That's it. Any question? Yes.
You said that you were speaking out more lately, like when it came to empathy, you would talk to you were going for some guessing about it. Like how did the conversations go with this?
Oh, one of the things that happened specifically is I had a coworker that said they didn't like I don't know if you guys know what the Boost program is, but it's the Boost program. It's essentially what's allowing my little brother to be able to go to a private school and it be paid for. Um, I think that I didn't specify this during her presentation. My little brother has ADHD and he also has a 504 plan, and he's also a Black boy. So something that we found very important was for him to go to a private school. So using things like the Boost program allows him to have allows us to pay for his education and get a proper education. A coworker within my office doesn't like it at all. But the coworker within my office also had a family that had enough money to pay for his private schooling without needing a boost program or scholarships. So I was able to say, I think you're wrong. This is useful for people that cannot afford it. The issues that you have with it will not happen in Maryland. They were bringing up how I can't remember who it is. I want to say it's Alabama, not Alabama. Is it Arkansas? It's a state that doesn't have public education. They don't have public schools. They only have private schools, and the good private schools are far away from everyone. So the individuals that could take their children that far are usually the individuals that have monetary funds to pay for that. But yeah, that's like one instance where I was like, you're wrong.
Did you find it frustrating, or I guess like how did you find it when you would be advocating or working on bills and stuff for things that a lot of people may not know about or did know about, but you'd have to explain it first? Like, how was that navigating that circumstance?
I want to say, I feel as though for certain bills in specific, there were no bills where I felt like I had to explain our bills, but there were other bills we get emails for where people just didn't have a clue what they were talking about. So there was instances, I know with the Intala bill with Senator Lamb, there was instances where we were getting a big influx of emails from people basically saying that we were taking away doctors' choice of conscience and we were taking away their right to choose to not have not do an abortion. And they were trying to make it seem like we were forcing doctors to do an elective, that's the wording they use, an elective abortion. And that wasn't the case. The bill itself was just saying, in cases of an emergency, like literal life and death, you can't say, oh, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Or you can't ship them off to a different hospital because your hospital is religiously founded just because you don't want to do an abortion when they're going to die.
Yeah.
So that was something I had to explain to people, and it was a nice email. I made a really nice email, very detailed. I explained why the changes were made, why this bill was here. I gave them the bill testimony. I gave them a timestamp of when they can watch it on YouTube and actually have Senator Lamb explain it, and get all the questions that the committee would have asked him. So that was one instance where I sort of advocated for the bill because I liked the bill.
Yeah.
But I advocated for the bill, but I also was able to clarify the bill for people that had the wrong idea.
Did you get like positive follow-up from that ever, or were you like ever hit with, I mean, I'm sure you got a lot of people that were like, I'm still angry or so on and so forth. But like, did you ever get positive outcome after that? Okay.
I had maybe two people, well, one person who specific did actually email back and she said, oh, I don't care, it's so bad. I was like, okay, that's fine. We have another constituent that keeps sending us the same email over and over and over again. Yeah, he just keeps sending the same email over and over and over again to the point where we just don't even respond at this point because you're getting the same email, like it. Anyways, but yeah, those are like the two different responses you'll get. I did one time get a constituent say that that was a big load of word salad, and I was like, okay, that's fine, all right. I spent a lot of time on that on that email, but it's okay. But yeah.
So like speaking of emails, like you mentioned having like 800 in one day, like one time, and that's a lot. I know you probably didn't have to like go through that like alone. Like there a system that you create for yourself so you can like get burned out, like doing all of these, like reading these emails, but still making sure that you're able to like pay attention to like each one, so it's not just oh reading like, but
Mhm.
without like trying to manage all.
Yeah. So I guess for regular emails, we have a lovely system, which is Indigo 2.0, which we get we have our main email, so we send the main email to Indigo, and then from Indigo, me or the other intern take care of it, and we batch it into very specific groupings. So we'll have a batch for education funding, we'll have a batch for um ICE legislation, we'll have just depending on what it is, we'll have a batch for it. And then from there, we have specific replies that we feel as though are appropriate for what we're doing. The replies will vary. Sometimes if it's just talking about ICE in general, or when it was talking about ICE at the airports, that's a different response than talking about like the murders in Minneapolis. You know, you get a different response based on those. When it was the 800 over the weekend, um, that was just sort of, well, I realized I started placing like a bulk of the emails into the intern folder, which is the folder they give us when there's just like stuff in there they don't want to do, they throw it in the intern folder. So I realized we put a bulk in there. But the quickest way, and it's gonna sound terrible, but the quickest way to get through those emails is to look and see who's actually in our district. And if they're not in our district, we delete them. So the 800 emails we were getting was in response to an education funding formula, which is just a task force to see what's the best way to fund education in Maryland. But people from Baltimore City and county don't like that because they're actually losing more students than gaining. And Frederick County is gaining more students than losing. So they would get they would get different funding. So like for that, for example, if you're not in Frederick County, you're getting deleted. Because we can't respond to all of those people. Yeah, good, good.